Hey everyone, it's Ange at Still City Scented, where we discuss artsy, weirdo, indie, and vintage perfume. If you're a fan, you are in the right place. Hope everyone is doing absolutely fantastic. Have you ever been in a situation where you've got a package of perfume and you stopped literally every single thing you are doing except breathing, including having a side conversation with the perfumer of said fragrance about a completely non-related topic? I got that package today. So we are discussing from my favorite indie house of all time, say it with me, Clandestine Laboratories, Eastern Lands. So I'm not going to be reviewing the usual cadence of house history because I've reviewed that ad nauseum. But we will talk about the notes of the fragrance, where I'd wear this, comparables there are none, and why I'm really so excited about that. So let's get the why I'm so excited about that out of the way first. I got the sample like 6 months ago or so, and Mark, I apologize for the number of times I harassed you pretty much about releasing this fragrance the next day, because incense, to me, I love incense fragrances, all of them, warm incense fragrances, cold incense fragrances. It takes a lot to really impress me with an incense fragrance because I have so many of them. But when I smelled this, I was literally taken aback, and that doesn't happen so often. Like, I really appreciate all our fragrances and I go, wow, but this really was like something that changed my thoughts about how incense fragrances, how I experienced them, what scent memories they brought back for me. So again, this just meant a lot to me that Mark took the time to release this because he didn't have to. And that really, it just brings up a lot of positive experiences for me, whereas some incense fragrances are negative. So, okay, let's get into the notes for this guy. Okay, so this was initially kicked around in 2023. So Mark was wearing this back in the day, 2023 himself, and like testing it out on folks, sending out samples. I was not one of those people, unfortunately, but that's fine because then I would have been harassing him for 2 years, and that's just a little bit, that's like a legal case at that point. So if you go onto clandestinelaboratories.com, it's under the limited release, and it's a wait list right now, so get some samples, So I'll read the the description rather quickly. It says, like Enigma, awesome fragrance. And if you know what Enigma is from World War II, good on you. If you don't, there's an awesome movie about it. Go do some homework. It's actually fascinating what Enigma is. I won't spoil it. It says, like Enigma, Eastern Lands is a World War II concept fragrance. This time, based on a much darker history. Enigma was pretty dark, so this is pretty gnarly. It says the original freedom fighters were Muslims recruited from German POW camps who were deceived into joining the German side with promises they were fighting for the independence of their countries from the USSR. Shocking. A strategy the US inherited after the war and used in Afghanistan to devastating effect for all parties involved. Also shocking. As a fragrance, it's intended to conjure the destructive power of war, but also the blood, sweat, and heroism of the common soldiers who fought on both sides, but I'd never say any of it. That's a tall order for a fragrance concept. Of course, he's not lying. Still, it evokes vivid emotions and imagery for those who've tried it so far, and it's also shockingly pleasant to wear. He's not wrong. So Eastern Lands is the first in a series of incense fragrances. What are the other ones? Tell us more. In this case, a dry incense, clove married to a massive dry sour green petitgrain note that's accentuated by a weirdly fresh galbanum oil, blended with elemi, which bridges the green, spicy, and resinous qualities. It works extremely well in hot weather, also in cold weather. The dry, resinous, and spicy sour green qualities make it strangely refreshing in the heat, and to be honest, do a great job of covering the smell of stale sweat. I don't have a stale sweat yet. I've only worn this in the cold, and it is stunning in the cold. It's our one, excuse me, it's one our perfumer has been wearing for years for that reason. Sorry, I need my glasses, but somehow hadn't considered a serious contender. That changed when he began sending out samples to a few regulars who'd sampled everything else. Okay, fair. That is a very, very interesting description and heavy concept. The notes include petitgrain, lavandin, and lavandin is an interesting choice. Lavandin is a much more aromatic, gnarly version of lavender. So if you go looking for, like, lavender would be too soft, right? Just too sweet, too fresh for something that's a really dry incense. So I'm glad he used lavandin here because it's very beautifully blended. This weird galbanum that on my skin smells like shisho pepper. I remember texting him and being like, did you put shisho in here? And he's like, no, it's this really weird galbanum that to me smells like shisho pepper, but And then elemi, which is obviously a little bit more lemony, incense, and clove. So when I spray this, I don't know how to describe. Okay, obviously the petitgrain, the lavandin, the galbanum come out immediately. The galbanum and the clove are there in the background. Those, 5, 6 notes are present on my skin the entire duration of this fragrance. And this lasts 4, 5, 6 hours on my skin. And I was joking with Chase, I will make you love this fragrance eventually. I'm just kidding. You don't have to love anything you don't want to. But it just stays on my skin, and it's an atypical incense fragrance for me, right? Normally you think cold incense, warm incense, right? One of those two camps. The elemi makes it a little bit brighter. It's not something like you'd expect to walk into a Catholic church or an Orthodox church and smell warm incense, or walk into like a Buddhist temple and smell cold incense, right? It's really just a unique take on incense. And even though it's a drier incense fragrance, it makes me feel this sense of joy that I don't know how to describe. Like, I looked up the chemical structures for these molecules because I'm a nerd, to see if they had any chemical similarities between dopamine, oxytocin, epinephrine, norepinephrine, serotonin. They don't. I looked up for endogenous opioids, things that would actually, somehow activate some pleasure pathway in your brain. And again, they don't. But the way they come together and hit my nose, lights up my brain, there has to be some activation of some type of pleasure response in my brain, because it's almost like both central and peripheral activation of just both calm and happy for my brain. So it's just, again, like, it moves through these beautiful herbaceous notes into this incense notes, but they all come together and just, I don't know, the experience of this is just fantastic. So I highly recommend that you sample this. There are still samples available, I believe. Samples, yes, they're $9. I would recommend going and grabbing some right now. So apparently there are batches coming in April, which is only 3 weeks away. So yes, and then there's a slight reformulation coming, I guess, with a different blend of petitgrain oil. So I'll be getting a second bottle because I'll need to see those, of course. Where would I wear this? I would wear this anywhere, honestly. And again, this has been performing really, really well on my skin. And we're in the fall, in the winter. Now it was spring yesterday. Now it's back to winter. So I'm so pumped to see how this is going to bloom in the heat. Like, it's going to be such a different experience in the heat. And I'm so stoked to see that. So, and as I mentioned, there's really nothing comparable that I can even think of. If you smelled Comme des Garçons copper, the galbanum in the opening, like the first 5 minutes, is a similar type of galbanum. But this is different. This is, again, more like, there's a little more heat and a little more peppery than that galbanum. That's the only real thing I can think of that would even be close. But just the first 5 minutes. After that, don't even think about a comparable fragrance. But I really would wear it anywhere, honestly. Like, it's, again, it just makes me insanely happy. I'm so thankful to have this bottle. And again, if you're looking for an incense that's not a typical incense fragrance, that, again, for me is just very calming, invokes a lot of joy in my brain, both centrally, peripherally, I would highly recommend this. So again, Eastern Lands by Clandestine Laboratories. And you guys take care. We'll talk soon. Bye.